welcome to my YouTube channel again. Hello. And so what am I doing today? Today I am going to give to you my top 5 all-time most desirable bucket list guitars of all time ever. If money was no object and I was a super rich dude and I'd won the lottery and I didn't even have to think about it, I could just spunk the coin on any guitar I want, what would I have? Top 5. So I've tried to make this as sort of diverse and as dynamic as possible because it's very easy for me to reel off like every single Stratocaster that there ever was, and yes, I'd have all of those and all the Les Pauls and all of that and every single custom shop thing ever made and signature models and all that stuff. But here's the thing, I'm not all that bothered about all that sort of stuff. So we're going to start with number 5. Now what have we got in place number 5? Well, and the reason I want this particular guitar is because I'm a huge Muse fan. Anybody out there like Muse? I love Muse. They're fantastic, one of the greatest bands of all time ever, with one of the most ingenious and creative stars at the centre of the show, Matthew Bellamy. He's brilliant. I absolutely love him to death. Not only is he an amazing vocalist, but he's a brilliant guitar player too. Amazing songwriter, pianist as well, and all that stuff. And boy, does he have some wicked sunglasses and jackets and things like that he rocks up on shows with and stuff like that. But he has a lot of different guitars that he plays. But he's recently bought out his own company that made all his custom guitars for him over the years. That's Manson Guitars. So the first guitar that I'm going to put on my bucket list at number 5 is a Matt Bellamy. It's called an MA Evo Sustainiac and Fuzz Factory limited edition guitar, and it looks like this. And it's red, sparkly, but more importantly, it has a lot of cool features about it. It has some stuff built into it that guitars just don't normally have, and most notably is a Fuzz Factory fuzz pedal in his guitar with controls on it to fiddle with it and make it go wee and do lots of weird stuff. And you might have seen, if you've seen some of my early videos, I actually built somewhat of my own tribute guitar to that, where I put a Fuzz Factory in a guitar and made it go wee and all them noises, and it was brilliant. I loved it. It was fun. But this one also has a Sustainiac pickup in the neck position, so you can make it go wee forever and it never stops, and have fun with it. And it's got lots of extra controls, and it looks really fun and interesting, and it's kind of like a bit of a hybrid Telecaster shape. Next we have number 4. So yeah, we're getting a bit old school with number 4. Number 4 is a BC Rich Mockingbird. Now you might think that's a bit of a weird choice, but here's my explanation for this, right? Again, related to who I'm a big fan of, who I've got, who I've had taken a lot of influence from over the years, and this harks back to the early 80s. Where there was bands like Slayer and Metallica and other bands like that who were playing BC Rich guitars and making them sound and look amazing and all that. But I'll be absolutely honest with you, the guy who got me into all this, really, to begin with, was a gentleman, you might have heard of him, he's called Slash. At the same time I was into all this sort of thing, I was a big movie buff, and I liked the movie Terminator 2 with Arnold Schwarzenegger. And so, having watched the video on MTV, and Arnold Schwarzenegger shows up in this music video, Guns N' Roses did a song for the soundtrack called You Could Be Mine. That was it, You Could Be Mine. And it was like the one song where Slash didn't play his famous Les Paul, and he picked up this red BC Rich Mockingbird, and I was like, ooh, what's this? What's this? It is interesting. It has buttons and switches and things, and it looks different, and it looked cool as fuck. And had a weird shape, and I really, really liked it. And ever since then, since I was like a 12-year-old kid, I've really wanted one of those guitars. Never got my hands on one yet, and it's an unusual one. I know maybe it's not on everyone's bucket list, of course, but for me, one of those early 80s ones. I mean, like I said, you go back to the early days of Slayer, they were playing BC Rich guitars. You look at early doors Metallica with Dave Mustaine. Dave Mustaine played a BC Rich. So later on, other influences came along that again it reinforced my wish for a BC Rich. And now the early ones are known nowadays as Rico guitars, because instead of the BC Rich logo that you see today, they had just a letter R on the headstock, and so that's kind of what I really would like, an early 80s BC Rich Mockingbird. That would just be beautiful for me. Thank you very much. And that's my number 4 guitar. Coming in at number 3, this one's right up my alley, I'll be honest with you. I kind of already have one. If you've seen some of my other videos, you might have seen that I have an Explorer shaped guitar, and the one I've got actually is an Epiphone 84 reissue type scenario type thing, and that's purely down to the influence of Mr. James Hetfield, or Papa Het as he prefers to be known these days. But I remember watching the one video and seeing him play this amazing looking white Explorer and thinking, flip me, I would really like one of those guitars. And so turns out those were called an ESP MX220, and specifically he had one that he wrote, he had a sticker on that said "Eat Fuck," and then it also had the bird inlays, the dot inlays that looked like somebody flipping the bird, not to be mistaken with PRS guitars that also have bird inlays of a different variety. I'm not going to talk about them because I got in a bit of trouble on my last video about that. So anyway, just a monster rock metal guitar, played by one of my ultimate all-time heroes. Fabulous. Alright, so getting into the meaty end of this thing now, and the next one, number 2, is just purely a personal choice. Now, a lot of people these days, a lot of guitar players, collectors, whoever they might be, who like buying guitars, have a thing about buying guitars from their birth year. So I thought I'll include one of those in my my top 5 bucket list guitars, and I can't honestly think of a better one than a Gibson Les Paul Custom in Alpine White. Oh my god, that would be amazing. And I do believe, you know, they were hefty beasts, but they just look phenomenal, especially the Les Paul Customs, with the extra binding, and just the sheer chunkiness of it, and the bulk of it, and it just looks fantastic. Anyway, birth guitar, 1979, Gibson Les Paul Custom in Alpine White. Yes, please. Nom nom nom. I would love one of them. Okay, so here we go. The big numero uno. What are we going to have in our number 1 position? I thought long and hard about this one, and I thought, well, what would make me really go, now I can't pick a specific year, but we're going to say early 60s, so we're talking 61, 62, 63. Fender Stratocaster, specifically in 3-colour sunburst with a rosewood neck. Now, there's a number of reasons why I particularly like those guitars. I mean, yes, they're a pre-CBS Fender, so there's that level of desirability, and everybody's like, you know, that's just the perfect era. Some people prefer the late 50s Strats, you know, but personally for me, the early 60s ones were the ones to have, and there's a number of reasons. Some influences that are big on me were playing them, namely players like Stevie Ray Vaughan. I mean, okay, so his was a bit of a parts caster made up from a 63 body and I think a 62 neck or a 61 neck with 59 pickups and all that, but really early 60s Strat. John Frusciante from the Red Hot Chili Peppers, again famously plays a very nice and road-worn 1962 Fender Stratocaster. And the other one I can think of perhaps is Rory Gallagher, 61 Fender Stratocaster. But the thing that they all have in common is they were all sunburst and they were all rosewood necked. And the reason I kind of like the early 60s one is at that point, the way they were building the necks of the guitars were a way that I particularly favour, which is that they were the fretboard itself was layered on as a separate piece, which what that meant essentially was that they could bury the truss rod inside the neck. What you ended up with was a really super clean looking neck on the guitar. No skunk stripe on the back, looked nice and clean, and the headstock itself didn't have any access for the truss rod at the top, so the headstock was really nice and clean, sort of swooping away from the nut up the headstock. So they just look tidy, look nice, look clean. Number 1 for me has to be, let's just give it a year, 1962, 3-colour sunburst with rosewood neck, Fender Stratocaster. Okay, so that's it. Those are my 5 bucket list must-have all-time favourite guitars that if money was no object I would own. Should anybody have any of those and they want to lend me them to make a video, that would be great too. So if you've got a top 5 favourite guitars that you would ever want to own, then, you know, list them out in the comments and let's see what you want. Of course, not everybody's going to agree with my choices here today. Probably going to think I'm a bit mad and a bit weird, but that's okay. I mean, you probably already thought that anyway. Nice talking to you again. Keep well. be safe, hands, face, space, as we like to say, and wear a mask when you go to the shop still. I think you're still supposed to do that, aren't you? Yeah? I don't know. We're waiting for Boris to make his mind up. So anyway, that's it from me. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Alright, bye.